grab a cup of joe and let's gather round that hay bale. With your hosts, Ann from Andale Homestead, Casey from Ormsby Farms, Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch, and Sandy from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Here they are. Hey, y'all, hey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the episode today. I'm Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
And this is Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona.
Hello, everyone. This is Casey from Ormsby Farm, the Halfway Homestead.
Well, hello and good morning. And if you're listening to us, so you got your earbuds in, you're doing stuff, you're listening, and you're going, what do those crazy people look like? Come on over to YouTube once in a while and see us around the hay bale. You won't be disappointed because sometimes we have props, sometimes we're just crazy, silly, fun, and sometimes it's just fun to watch people.
I was about to say, I think we're crazy fun all the time. So you definitely don't want to miss us. Well, especially, I talk with my hands always.
Yeah, me too.
So
yeah.
Flopping and flailing over the screen, come on over. And today's going to be a flopping and flailing kind of episode because it's one that I'm really, really excited about. We're talking about food storage and recipes. So y'all know we've been doing the 6-part limited series on being prepared. And if you go over to our Etsy store, you can see that we have a 99-cent prepper guide. All you got to do is download it. It's 87 pages, and you can print out the pages that you want. But by the chapters is going to be by the episode. So you know that you're able to print out that episode that week and take down notes. So head over to our Etsy store. It's in our link tree, and download it so you can join us along. So food storage and preservation. Now, let me start off by saying we're going to be talking about a lot of different ways to store food. And one that I think a lot of people do talk about is freezing. But we're talking, and I think I've said this on a couple episodes, freezer. Okay, electricity goes out, tornado, snowstorm, whatever. How long do you have from freezer to canned item until that food goes bad?
It really depends on your freezer too. The
Yes.
more packed your freezer is, it stays colder longer. And if you don't open it, like our freezer, when we've had electricity out easily, it's still solid in 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
But my daughter, she had an older one when they just had the tornado by them. And by 24 hours, the ice cream was soup and they were cooking everything that was in the freezer.
I like to put, because I usually have stocked freezers, but on day 2, so usually my freezers after 24 hours, they're still pretty hardcore solid. But if it's not looking like we're getting any electricity anytime soon on day 2, that's when I'm kind of like, all right, Casey, what you going to do? Are you going to can some stuff? Are you going to dehydrate? I don't have a freeze dryer, Harvest Right. If you want to send us some, we are more than welcome to take your freeze dryer and try freeze drying foods. But that's what I'm thinking at that point. I'm like, okay, I need to because I don't want to lose. I had an awful experience happen to me when I moved to this new homestead. I was working really like around the clock, and there was so much chaos that I didn't notice that my freezer went out for about 4 days. And when we went into it, I'm talking, it was a year's worth of whole chickens that we had just processed, turkey, beef, and pork was kaput. And it was hundreds, if not almost $1,000 worth of meat. And you don't want to lose that. So that is why we're talking about this episode, because we're going to talk about canning, dehydrating, all that kind of stuff. Sandy, what is your go-to for food preservation? If you had to pick your favorite of all favorites, what would that be?
Well, sometimes it depends on what it is. I have to tell you honestly how I'm going to preserve it. I have a whole pantry downstairs filled with canned goods because they just last and last and last. But I have a dehydrator and I use it a lot, and if if I get so packed with stuff and I still have vegetables, I'll dehydrate them and then just grind them up in my Vitamix, and it's powder, and I just add it to soups and casseroles and stuff like that because I don't want to waste it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's hard to say because there's different ways that I'd like to do that. Can I tell you one little quick thing about your freezer though?
Yes.
You should always have ice cubes in a bag in your freezer. Because say you're gone on vacation for a week,
Yep.
you don't realize that your refrigerator or freezer,
Yeah.
the power went out. So it will melt in that baggie and you won't have ice cubes. You'll just have this solid mass. And then it's been too long for that food in there.
Smart.
See, and that's why we have the note pages on that prepper's guide right here in our Etsy store, because these things that you hear coming out of our mouths, like, are some ingenious. I would have never thought of that. I have done the water bottle in the freezer because when we got checked out for get our meat license, one of the things the guy said is all we look at is to make sure it's a frozen water bottle in your freezer to be like, okay, yes, you have a freezer to store the meat. But ice cubes in a Ziploc baggie, I mean, that's ingenious.
Well, that's the thing too. A frozen water bottle will refreeze. So,
Right.
I
but
think this was just to show that the freezer was working.
temperature, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of the you have like a cup with some ice water in it, and you put a cup of ice water in your freezer and you freeze it, and then you put a quarter on the top, or you put a penny or whatever on top, and then you just keep it there so that if your freezer does go out at any point, when power comes back on, you check and see how low that penny is in the cup. If it's touched the bottom of the cup, if it's completely liquid, it's been too
Good
long,
idea.
it needs to be done. You can do the same thing and just keep it up there. So if you are on vacation, you come back and you notice that penny is not at the top of the frozen pile, but it's in the middle or at the bottom, you're in some trouble because it's been way too long since your freezer was working. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're gone. We're in two different places for 6
Yeah.
months at a time. And so you could have a power outage and then everything freezes again when the electricity is back on. And I would not know if it was too long. But I love that penny idea.
Yeah, and you could probably do that, put a dime or something inside of a water bottle if you really wanted to. Frozen water bottle, put it on the top or whatever, just have it so you can see it's clear, if it starts to thaw. But the idea is to have something in there to see. But yeah, that's a really good idea about the plastic baggie. I love that with the ice.
I know.
Love that idea.
Like
putting ice in the baggie.
Go do it.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm like, okay.
Monica, what's your favorite way to preserve?
Probably canning. I think right now that's my go-to. I can as much as I can put in there. I mean, I really do. I put everything in cans if I can to get it up there and get it away from my freezer because first of all, I don't trust my freezers in Texas. I don't trust the fact that one of my little kids isn't going to leave a freezer open. We've had that happen a lot of times because I have a lot of freezers. And when I have freezers and they're full, which is amazing and such a blessing, they're full. The problem is that when you have a freezer full of $800 worth of meat and then a little kid leaves the door open or something happens and you're losing hundreds of dollars of hard-earned money and meat that you've raised, it is devastating. And I've had that happen. I've had freezers stop working in the middle of summer and then realized it days later. And because I hadn't touched the freezer, I hadn't been in the freezer for any reason until the kids saw the water underneath. So the idea that I have now is get everything out of my freezer as much as I can and get them into jars. So I try to can up as much as I possibly am able to just to get it out of my freezer and into my shelves because I know that that's for me, that's going to be the most stable way. But then again, your pantry shelves are not immune from disaster, right? I had a friend of mine that had a house fire and, you can only prep so much when it comes to food for a house fire. There's only so much you can do. She lost extra freeze-dried stuff. She lost all her canning stuff. She lost everything in a house fire. There's nothing you can do in that case. But we're talking about ways you can prep if you do have an emergency that you can prepare for. And so, yeah, canning is definitely for me. I can leftovers. I can frozen meat that I thaw out and cook.
Leftover queen.
Yeah, I can everything. Right now, we're working on canning up jelly so that we can use our fruit, get it used as much as we can. If it's there to harvest, it's going in jars.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, I don't put everything in jars, like certain vegetables, certain things you just can't.
Right.
put into a jar. You can freeze it or you can maybe dehydrate it, but there's some things I won't can. What will you not can, Sandy? What is what's the
Oh,
one thing you won't can if you needed to put something into preserving? You know you want to preserve it because you like to eat it, but you definitely aren't going to can it.
well, I have tried canning potatoes different times. And
Mhm.
depending on what you grow, what kind of potatoes you grow, sometimes they just get this film like stuff around them, the
Mhm.
water and the starches.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't like that. I would have rather made some hash browns out and, you know, froze them,
Yeah.
but I think it's just really preferences.
Yeah.
But like, I don't have a dehydrator or not a dehydrator, a freeze dryer, but my daughter does.
Yeah.
And so she can freeze dry things that I want too. So
Mhm.
that just gives you a whole nother option, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
And we'd all like freeze dryers
We would
if
all
Harvest
like
Fry would
freeze
like to give
dryers.
them to us.
That's right. Come on
Hey,
now.
I think there's a new company called Blue Alpine. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And they're made in America. Like all their parts
Yeah.
are like I'm
Yeah.
ready for it. Blue Alpine, if you hear us, we want to try.
We're gonna tag you. We're gonna
We're
tag you.
we are not loyal until someone makes us loyal,
Correct.
just so you know. And then we are fiercely loyal. Then we are fiercely loyal. But okay, so we're talking about preserving food, right? We're talking about food storage. We've talked about canning a little bit, right? We've canned food, you can dehydrate food, you can freeze dry food, but if you don't have a freeze dryer, you don't maybe you know someone that does, or maybe you can buy your freeze dried food. Do you guys all have store
Mhm.
bought or bought somehow freeze dried cans in your house somewhere?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, freeze dried. Yeah, I love
Freeze
that.
dried. But for me, when I want freeze dried stuff for my daughter, I
Yeah,
want fun stuff, right? So like, um, she made me peppermint patties. They
I love
explode.
that.
Um, Ice cream sandwiches,
Yum.
peanuts. I want fun things. Though she does do a lot of fruit for me, so I have grapefruits and strawberries. But look at this.
Nice.
This is carameled apples. So it's both the caramel
Yum.
and the apples,
I love that.
you know? And like I have a lot of apple trees. So look what she did. She made applesauce and she put them in they have these little square molds. And
What?
so they're, you know,
That's fantastic.
those are fun.
Yeah, see, I agree. I like the fun stuff. When I was a kid, we used to go to the Science Center down in DC, and I used to always tell my mom, "I need just enough money so that I can get the space ice cream. I need
Yeah.
it. Astronauts eat it." And
Yeah.
I always wanted the Neapolitan astronaut ice cream. And as now an adult, I'm like, I was eating freeze-dried ice cream. That's all it was. And it never was the most delicious thing in the world, but to me, it was like I was an astronaut for 5 seconds. And so now I'm like, everybody can freeze dry now. I make my own. I can go find somebody. I'm gonna be calling a friend and being like, I need you to freeze me some ice cream
Well,
so I can
we
freeze an
talked
astronaut.
about it in episode 1 of like, what's that one thing that makes you happy that you need to have prepped up? Freeze dried candy, and it's super popular right now.
It
Yeah.
is.
Some freeze dried candy, and just have a little bit just for a nibble. That peppermint patty, just like I'm going to be zoned out the rest of the episode because now
I
I just
know.
freeze dried peppermint patty.
I'm literally gonna go have to like go talk to Jake from Nunya, Texas, and be like, "Hi, I'm gonna buy like 80 pounds of peppermint patties, and I'm gonna need you to go ahead and freeze dry them. I'll come get them in a month. Thanks." Like,
Yeah. Milk does are really good too.
Oh
oh
yeah.
my
It,
gosh.
yeah. It's, you
Another
know,
thing a lot of people are talking about is freeze drying the eggs, and this goes back to when Sandy you were talking about preference. Like,
Yeah.
do you prefer to freeze your eggs or water glass your eggs or freeze dry your egg? Freeze
Mhm.
dry, water glass.
mhm.
Because I actually prefer water glassed eggs. I think even if I had a freeze dryer, I may try some eggs, but that's just one more thing that I honestly have to remember where I
Mhm.
put it
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
eggs. So I think that's important to figure out, especially with food preservation. How do you personally like that food? I personally don't like canned zucchini or squash.
Yeah,
I
it's much.
It gets mush. So I prefer
Mhm.
to that or to dehydrate it. Freezing is my super preference.
Hmm.
Dehydrating and then rehydrating is my second. But yeah, what is y'all's preference for eggs? If you had to say for eggs, I mean, of course, has any of us tried dehydrated or freeze dried eggs?
I've bought freeze dried egg powder before and we've
Yeah,
reconstituted and used it, and it seems
yeah,
to be fine.
yeah. I've
Yeah,
had it in the can that they've done it.
Mhm.
I haven't done it. Um, if you dehydrate your scrambled eggs, you do have to still freeze them.
yes.
It's not safe to just vacuum seal them.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why
So
water glassing. I'm just like just learn this.
Yeah.
Let me learn that skill. And we do have y'all an episode on
mhm,
water glassing eggs. If you go back to the beginning of season 5, we did
Mhm.
a wonderful episode on. I don't think I had water glassed eggs then, and now I'm just a water glassing kind of dude.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I just cracked some eggs open the other day and used them for a recipe for Eric, the duck eggs, because a lot of times people don't use duck eggs to water glass because they can be dirty,
mhm.
and
nasty.
I am a little bit of a rebel when it comes to that. I just kinda
Mm,
brush it off and put it in there and hope for the best. But I've had the best outcomes, really, truly. And
Mhm.
I had a 1 gallon jar that I had filled with duck eggs last March. I did it on a video, filled them up in March, and I've maybe had, I don't know, 5 or 6 eggs that are kind of like, "Meh, I'm not going to eat those. I'm going to throw those out." But 5 or 6 is just a handful basically out of the entire batch. And I cracked something open the other day. One of them, the yolk was really kind of runny. It smelled like a duck egg, didn't smell anything different. But the second egg, it looked like it was a brand new egg still. And I thought, oh my word, how does this look so perfect still? I was thoroughly impressed. And then I was regretting cracking it open without taking a video because I was like, no one's going to believe me that this is so perfect. But I mean, I was making banana bread, so I didn't care if it looked perfect. But I
mhm.
was like, oh my word, I could fry this up and no one would know the difference that it was in there from last
Right.
March.
Right.
I was flabbergasted. And I was very impressed with myself. I was like, "You did a great job, Monica."
Yeah. I think you have to, when you're choosing whatever form you're gonna, freezing, canning, whatever,
Yeah.
those ingredients need to be good. They need to be fresh.
Mhm.
Um, you want to make sure that you're putting in the best,
Yeah.
so that your return is good, is the best.
Yeah.
And you know, if you got this piece of meat that you got from the store and it's way past the expiration date, don't be doing anything with that except
Yeah.
for giving it to frying up for your dog or something.
Yeah.
You have to be careful about things like that. And there's lots of charts and PDFs
Mhm.
all over the internet from, you know, government issued, university issued, and it will
Yeah.
tell you about how long will this stay in your freezer, you know. Um, but sometimes I vacuum seal them and put 'em in my freezer, and they last longer than what they say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
It usually does that for me because I, like Monica, am a little bit of a rebel. But I will say there are certain things I'm not going to be a rebel on. And if I go to the store, and I sometimes go to the store and walk straight to the clearance section of the meats,
Mhm.
mhm,
it's, let's say it's sold by. That's the one thing that, especially the grocery stores by me, they're not saying, expires, expiration date. They're saying use by or sell
Yep.
by,
right. Sell
which
by. Yeah.
which to me is, you got a little bit longer. I think this is my opinion. And I'll go ahead and either vacuum seal. I'll take it out of the package that it came in, vacuum seal and freeze, or I'm going to turn it into some canned meat. Like I'll do that with the red meat if I find some really good ones. Throw it in there with some potatoes and some onions and some homemade broth, and then it's
Mhm.
just a little beef cubes that you can open up and have dinner with. I mean, but it's to your preference of
Yeah.
what you are comfortable with and what you're comfortable with your family.
Mhm.
And even that same way with what you put it in, whether it's
Yeah.
a vacuum
Yeah.
sealed bags, jars, um, mylar bags. I tried to have like a
Mhm.
little bit of all of the stuff you may have.
Yeah.
How do y'all store your, like when you do dehydrated or freeze dried stuff? How do y'all store it? Do you leave it in the when it comes in, or
Yeah, yeah. Like I mean, I've had these since last fall. But
if you get like a big giant thing of something, like you say you get bulk,
Mhm.
I don't know,
then I'd
bulk
probably vacuum seal them again. I'd take it
zero.
out and vacuum it into the
Yeah.
smaller packages. Otherwise, when you go to open that big bag, it's like, man, I got to use all this up.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah,
do that with our flour, we do with our oats, rice, things like that. I'll buy a really big bag, and then I'll divide it up and to put it into glass jars and vacuum seal the glass jars. Sometimes I even put an oat like an oxygen absorber in there, and then I
yeah,
vacuum seal it anyway, like, I'm just to make sure,
yeah.
because this is the girl right here that has opened up jars. Well, nay, I have not opened the jars. I have just put the lid on the jars, no O2 absorber, no vacuum seal, just had a 1 gallon jar. I was like, nah, it's fine. Threw a bunch of rice in there, put the lid on real nice and tight, and threw it in my pantry shelf. And I come back in 3 weeks and I'm like, oh, that rice has little weevils crawling all through it. Because I'm just here to tell you guys have bugs in your food, okay? There's bugs in your
Always.
food. There's eggs,
Yeah.
there's bugs. But my kids are like, Mom, there's bugs in our rice. And I'm like, shoot, I can't feed them that. They're gonna know. So I'm the one that has made sure that I put the O2 absorbers in there now and make sure I vacuum seal, because if I'm not, then I will get the weevils. I'll see them. Once my kids see them, that's it. I may have been a mom that when things were a little tight one time, I had a bunch of weevils in my flour, and I may have sifted out all those weevils and repackaged the flour for saving later.
Well,
Just saying.
it doesn't actually hurt your flour. It's just that Americans do not want bugs in their stuff. But like
Right.
Yeah,
when my daughter freeze dries, she see I don't know if you can tell that, but there's an oxygen absorber right
yeah,
back here. She put that in every single one.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, it just makes it a lot safer and longer. You know,
I do
but
that when I do meals in a jar. Like when
yep,
I do like the pasta and the cheese powder that I use here, and I make my little pasta.
absolutely.
Even though I vacuum seal the lid, which I absolutely love doing, I'm still going to put more than likely 2 to 300 cc's of
uh-huh.
oxygen absorber in there just to make myself feel comfortable. And I've had mac and cheese that has been dehydrated or has been vacuum sealed and stored for over 3 years and
Mhm.
popped open, and it was like brand new Kraft macaroni and cheese. Like,
Yeah.
you're putting all this effort into preserving this food. Do that one little small step that is just throwing an oxygen absorber in there to
Yeah,
see what you've preserved instead
yep,
of trying to cut corners.
Yeah.
yeah,
And one other thing to remember is when you're going to prepare this, you got to wash your hands, you got to wash your
mhm,
utensils, you got to everything that you're going to like you put in a jar or a container or whatever. You want things to be clean because you don't want the bacteria growing um into your container because you just didn't take that 10 minutes to be a little bit safer.
Right.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to canning. Yes.
I think it's important too to remember too, when we're storing our food, when we're stocking up, a lot of people just go right for, oh, I see the packages of ramen or this or that, and they want to grab the cheap stuff. But what you need to remember is sometimes you buy the cheap stuff and then no one likes it. No one wants to eat it. And the
Right.
thing is that you're preparing for what? What are you preparing for, right? And a few episodes ago, we talked about what are you preparing for? How are you preparing? Who are you preparing for? If you have a whole family of people that don't eat pasta, then man, don't be buying a ton of pasta. There's no point. I mean, you could stock up a little bit of it because it's always funny because whenever my mother-in-law will say, they're carnivores, right? They eat keto carnivore. They don't really eat pasta, but she'll say things like, well, if the times were getting tough, I'd eat it. Okay, well, are the times ever actually that tough that you're gonna eat pasta? Like, really though? Like, what is that? That's like a 50-year plan? Because a lot of people don't they think of what's the worst case scenario. Well,
Right.
I'm saying if I'm gonna spend my money on it, I'm gonna say that we're gonna eat it all within the next 3 years
Mhm.
because
Hmm.
I wanna be able to backfill it and know that I know how to use it. I know how to rehydrate those things that are dehydrated or freeze dried. I bought those number 10 cans of, the Southwestern rice from Augustin Farms or whatever it is, the cheesy potato soup. FYI, cheesy potato soup, not our favorite. My kids hate it. So guess what? I'm not going to be buying that from Augustin Farms anymore. You might like it. She might. Other people
Mhm.
may like it. My people don't like it. So it ended up getting wasted. I made a big pot of it. The kids were like, "Bleh." And so I gave it to the pigs. The pigs loved it. But now I know not to invest my money into
Right.
something that even in the worst of times is not going to be a good choice because they're going to want things that nourish them as well as things that they're going to be palatable. We want palatable items. So save your money on buying things that are just for buying and put your money into things that you know you can eat yourself or your family will actually eat and consume over the next few years. There's no point of buying for 50 years from now.
Well,
You
and same thing with canning. Like, you
yeah.
don't waste canning space. Like, I had to learn the hard way that we just don't go through 9 billion quarts of tomato sauce. We
Yeah.
just,
Mhm.
and
Right.
so you learn as you're prepping, okay, if your family eats a lot of spaghetti, then yes, maybe you need 4
Absolutely.
billion ones of tomato sauce. One thing that I learned that we really don't like canned is corn. Love
Oh,
frozen corn, love,
Okay.
corn on the cob, all of that
mhm.
kind of stuff. The canned corn, just not a fan. Don't know
Mhm.
why. We'll put it in soups, stews, but it's
Yeah.
just it's not. Ooh, I really want some canned corn tonight. No, just not our thing.
I love canned corn.
It's just not our thing. But when you're planning that,
Yeah.
don't can 90 pints when you
Yeah.
could use those pint jars. And I don't
Mhm.
ever
Yeah.
prep canning jars for multiple years. I do for 1 year.
Yeah.
Am I using from like August, let's say August, beginning of canning season, until next year? Because if you have the skills, which you
Mhm.
should with us, because next week's episode, we're going to be talking about this. I should know how to save the seeds
Yeah.
and then grow the plants to have that tomato. If I have one tomato that I grow, I'm not going to say from the store, but you can get it from the store. One tomato, I will never want for tomatoes ever again
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
know the skills of how to do it.
Yeah.
So canning, I do for a year. Now, flour, rice, that kind of stuff, maybe 5 years I can have prepped up. I guess we did an episode on this of prepper to homesteader. And
Yeah.
even though there is a fine line that is similar between the two of them, there is big differences between panic prepping and preparing your pantry, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's just my little soapbox here on the canning food. If you don't like corn, like Crazy Casey from Ormsby Farm, the Halfway Homestead, then don't can no corn. But if you love it, you do you, and you can corn until your heart is desired.
Sometimes when it's canned and you've had it for a year or 2 years, like jelly, it loses parts of its flavor,
Yeah,
right?
there's.
Canned corn, when you go to heat it, if you put some sugar in that water, that liquid, it will refresh the corn and you might like it better, Casey.
Ooh, I may have to try that because we still have 3 pints of canned corn on my shelf, and I'm like,
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, just put some cane sugar in there.
mm,
Um, and sometimes it just because there's chemical reactions happening
Mhm.
as
yeah.
it sits. And so corn is one of those things that you can add a little sugar when you heat it back up and it can refresh even corn on the cob that you've frozen
Yeah.
in the water that you're boiling. If you put a little sugar, it will enhance the flavor of the corn.
And see, this is why you have to get our little prepper guide and have these recipes. Because now I have
Yeah.
it here, and I'm going to be writing down, add some cane sugar to your corn, because I am going to try that.
Well, that's
Because,
what I was gonna say too. Take the prepper guide and look at those things, and maybe instead of just, don't think of. I guess one of the things is I use whenever I go to meal plan, I ask my kids. I sit down and say, okay, what's your top 5 favorite things you like to eat? What are the meals that I make that you like? So maybe that's where you take one of those note pages in your prepper guide too, and you say, okay, these are the quick and easy meals that I know that I can make now to prepare ahead of time so that they can go in my pantry. My
Mhm.
kids, they love tacos. They love shredded beef, shredded meat, any type of sort of shredded chicken or meat or beef or pork or whatever. I can do those and have them in my pantry so that anytime I can grab them out and I can make a meal out of them.
Mhm.
They love fajitas and things like that. So I use that type of space to write down my kids' favorite recipes too. Um, my family's easy go recipes or just easy recipes to use with the things I have stored. So maybe that's the time where you look and say, okay, I know I've got a bunch of freeze dried potatoes. Now I know what to do with them. Well, maybe you can make some potatoes au gratin. You make some cheesy potatoes, but look up those recipes to use the things that you've dehydrated or that you've freeze dried or that you've put in your pantry in jars. Because if you don't know how to use it, but you have it stored, there's literally, you're wasting your money.
Mhm.
You're wasting your money because there's nobody that's going to go in there and snap open a box of August and Farms dehydrated potato crisp things. They're like little potato rounds and just start eating them.
Right.
No, you got to cook them. You got to do something with them. Like even my kids can be freaks sometimes. They eat some weird stuff. They ain't doing that. So know how to use what you've got stored. That's super important. And the
Mhm.
recipe spaces and the note places on this recipe in the prepper guide is great for that. Make those notes of what you like to eat, what your family likes to eat, who you're prepping for, what their things that they like to eat are, and figure out how to use the things and what you're going to prep for food wise. Because if you know what food you want to put in your pantry, you're going to save your time, you're going to save your energy
Right.
and your money instead of putting garbage in your pantry. You're going to be able to put stuff in your pantry with a purpose
Right.
that you
Yeah.
know how to use.
And if you put those things that make a meal, if you can put them together sometimes,
Yes.
you don't have
Great
to do
idea.
everything in your pantry like that. But say you have it for 2 weeks and these things go together, I can make a whole meal. These things, I can make a whole meal. Sometimes maybe it's not a situation, but it's like, I don't have anything to fix. You can go right to that shelf and you can take that whole bundle and you got a meal.
It's
Yeah.
such a good idea to
Yeah.
have like your, repackaged pasta right beside your tomato sauce or your tomato sauce,
Absolutely.
the your beef already in it, and be able to pull that, rehydrate the pasta, pour that sauce on it, and then it's a quick and easy meal. And
Hmm.
also to have these recipes, because we talk about this a lot, is sometimes the internet's not going to be there, and we're not talking about zombies taking over. We're talking about internet goes down,
Hmm.
and or the electricity goes out.
Mhm.
You can't get to a recipe that your kids really wanted that night. If you go
Yeah.
ahead and start and download our prepper guide and get that recipe, you're going to have it printed out. So if you're
Yep.
sick or your spouse is sick and they're the ones that normally does the cooking, it's all right there and kind of guides you through what to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love the idea of putting things together too. So if you're in the mindset of you're prepping for a natural disaster, you're prepping for some type of emergency where you're going to lose power or whatever, why not take a tote, one of those clear bins or one of those plastic bins and go ahead and put 3 or 4 meals worth of prepped
Mhm.
items in there, meals, prepped meals, 3 or 4 meals, stick it in there, pop the recipe on top of it. And now you've got it ready to go so that if the lights go out, power's out, you need to be able to prep and you need to be able to produce food for your family, for you and your husband, or maybe your husband's in charge and the rest of your family's there going, what are we going to have? Mom's not home or dad's not home. You have something and it's there and it's not a lot of thought. It's right in front of you and it's prepared and ready to go. I think that it's one of those things that it takes the worry out of it. It takes the anxiety out of what am I going to do now
Hmm.
with the food and with the things because my people need to eat, right? So I think we talked about a lot of really good stuff tonight. I really love being here with you guys and talking about food storage and the different ways to store food. And if you need help with any of these things, make sure you come in tomorrow because Tuesday night we are live on YouTube. We talk about all the things that we've discussed in this podcast today. And we actually want to know what we're missing. Like you listen to us, you listen to the things we talked about. What are we missing? What are we leaving out? What do we not discuss tonight? Give us some ideas because we want to work together between us three and everybody out there in the chat. We want to know and we want to make our preps better and we want to work together because we're a team, guys. Like this really is about preparing and getting ourselves ready. And sometimes we miss out on things. We have holes in the preps that we already think of. So thanks again for being with us. We will see you tomorrow and then next Monday right here on Round the Hay Bale. Bye, y'all. Bye.